Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining a little early. We'll be getting started in about 5 minutes, so just hang in there for now. And we will be getting going in just a few minutes. Thanks.
Good. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hey there, how are you?
How
Hi,
are you?
David.
Long day. So I'm just,
David, we'll get started in just a few minutes.
yeah, okay. Hey, Brad, just in case, I'm just thinking, the computer on now, if you start sharing things, which you will, I've got a feeling my computer might crash.
Oh, well, you should be able to see the Potterly.
Great, if that's good, because if it does,
No,
you'll see me logging back in on my laptop, or I'll warn you.
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen right now. You should be able to see.
Yeah, my video card in this PC is acting up for some reason.
Okay.
So just it happened at the board meeting. I don't know if you noticed that.
No.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, just in
Okay.
case. Hello, Heather.
Hello.
Hey, Noel.
hi, David.
How are you?
I'm good. I've had a long day too. We did strategic planning today.
What, Raya?
Yeah, no, NCBR.
NCBO. Oh yeah. What's life going to be like after the virus? Is that the plan?
It's all about communication.
Yeah. All right. I just have one important task to do. Hold on. All right.
Take a screenshot.
Okay.
Take a screenshot. You want to just come look? I'm not. I don't have video, so you can come look.
Hey, Terry. Good evening.
How are you?
Well, thank you. Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, you're all excited?
Yeah. A lot going on. Good things.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
I like this orange Heartily for annual meeting. That looks cool.
Yeah. It's nice. Who prepared that? Cara, are you listening?
That was Kara. Yep. We've about a minute before we'll get started. Kara's started recording. We have some attendees who are watching. Just waiting for a few more board members, so we'll have a quorum, and then we will get going.
Hey, Brad, I'm losing you, so I'm going to log in again on something else.
Okay, we'll start when you get back in.
Yeah, sorry. Hold on. It's happening.
It's happening.
Jesus.
Hello, everyone. Our board chair is having a little technical difficulty. As soon as he gets back on, we will go ahead and start our meeting. Welcome to everyone on Zoom and on Facebook Live. We should be in both places right now, and the meeting is being recorded.
So, Brad, when
Yes.
we talk, are we on Facebook Live?
You are.
Okay, then I'm muting.
David can get back in, then we're ready to go.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, Elena.
Hi. Hi.
All right. Elena, we are just waiting for David. He was having technical difficulties. We are live on Zoom and on Facebook. And as soon as David gets back in, we will get started. Might have to have Elena take over.
Uh-oh.
Pause for a second. Oh, and Dr. Blackwell's with us already. Thanks for coming early.
Thank you. I appreciate the invitation to be here.
Well, just in the interest of time, we might go ahead and get started. I hopefully David is going to get back in. Welcome everyone to the 2020 Potter League for Animals annual meeting. We've had a lot of firsts this year. It's our first virtual annual meeting. Normally we would be together having a cocktail party. So you can all still have a cocktail if you'd like, but you're on your own for those. Let me just make sure David's not back in here. Are you, David? Everyone on the board should have received a copy of the, oh, there's David. All right.
Okay, I'm back.
Excellent.
Sorry about that.
We're ready to go, David, whenever you are.
I'm ready. Do you want me to start now?
Yep.
Okay, welcome everybody to the 2020 Potter League for Animals annual meeting. I can't tell how many of you are out there, but I'm sure there are lots. I know I can see the board members online, so welcome to them. Welcome to all of our staff who may be listening or joining in, and all of our volunteers out there, and our donors and our friends. So congratulations for joining us tonight. Another year has passed. It only seems like 5 minutes since we did the 2019 presentation, but what a year. So all I can say about the last year is that it's been very interesting. It's been the most difficult of times for the last 6 months, and I have to commend everybody as to how well the Potter League and all the people that support us have done during that period. You know, whether it's the closure of the shelters or the Spay and Neuter clinic in Warwick, the period we went through when we had to close down for a while, you know, how we dealt with that. All of the restrictions we have on operating our facilities. And then most recently, for those of you that have seen some of our fundraising events, how we've adapted over the last 6 to 8 months and how well we've done. And I can't say how proud I am of everybody who participated. Thank you. And of late, in the last couple of weeks, we have the news that we've expanded our operations a little bit further, and now we have under our control the Pets in Need clinic up in Riverside, which I'm sure Brad will talk about in a minute. And I commend everybody that was involved in that. So it's been a great year, and thank you all for attending. So my first mission is to seek a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting. So could I please get a motion?
So moved. Moved.
Seconded?
Second.
Right. So all of the ayes, please raise your hands. All right, all of the nays. Motion passed. Thank you very much indeed. So moving right on to the next one, I'd like to introduce Noel Shyland, who I happen to work with. So she's been a great supporter of the Potter League over the years and is now chair of the governance committee. So Noel, if I could hand it over to you.
Thank you, David. I am the governance committee, and I am here to welcome our new members. I want to thank, first of all, I want to thank our outgoing members, Marie, Joan, and Charlene. I want to introduce the 3 new members. Joining us will be Mike, John, and Pearl. In addition, we have 3 members staying on for the 2nd term, Richard, Carol, and Ellen. Do I have a motion to elect the new members?
So moved.
Second.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I think, Brad, you're taking over from here.
I am, thank you. Well, thank you for keeping it quick. You know, when you're virtual, I guess some things go quicker. So I appreciate that. And I think
True.
that closes the business portion of our meeting. People don't have to get up and walk to the front of the room and come back. We just switch screens and we're ready. So I am going to give a real brief overview of the past year, which seems like 5 years here at the Potter League. And thank you all, as David did, for supporting us through all this, for all of you in the community, our staff and our volunteers who've just done a tremendous job of making sure that our services are still available. And thank you to everyone, all the members of the board who you just got to see briefly, and those who are staying and those who are moving on. They really are very dedicated to the cause and are usually behind the scenes, except for at this meeting. And I really appreciate their support and making everything work here at the Potter League. It takes, I don't know if people appreciate how important the board of directors is to a nonprofit really running well, but this one does. So a little bit about what we've been doing this year, but first I want to tell you about a great story, a great connection that we had recently, at the Potter League with Bill and Bear. So Bill in this picture is the human. There, now you can see him, I think. Can you see Bill, hopefully? Bill and Bear are Bill is the human in this picture and Bear is the dog. Bill is a Vietnam veteran who was a canine handler for the Air Force in Vietnam. And his wife of 53 years passed away over the summer, which left Bill alone for the first time pretty much in his life. And he had some family and friends, but still was in the house alone by himself a lot. He went to the VA for support after his wife passed, and after talking to people there, they suggested that he think about getting a dog. So Bill started looking around some shelters in Rhode Island and eventually called the Potter League. We happen to have gotten this dog, Bear, who came to us with almost no hair, had a very serious skin condition, very serious ear infections, and actually took a couple months to get him back into good condition. And just so happened that Bear was ready for adoption right when Bill showed up. And for the folks who were there, Bear came around a corner, Bill saw him, and Bear looked just like Shadow, the dog that Bill had in Vietnam years ago. And when Bill had to leave, he had to leave Shadow behind, like a lot of dogs were left behind when we left Vietnam. And Bill just started tearing up, and he knew it was the dog for him. We got him connected to a group called Pets for Patriots that supports veterans' ownership of dogs, subsidizes some of their vet care, and connects them with supplies and services. And Bill and Bear are now just the greatest bonded pair of person and animal that you'll ever meet. They're home together, and they have just clicked, and it's been a real life-saving relationship for both of them. We are so proud of being a part of that connection. And I'll talk to you about a lot of different things that we do, but at our core is still bringing together this human-animal bond, that connection, and the importance that animals can have in our lives. And I think there's no better example of that importance than these two who came together right there in our lobby at the Potter League. So thanks all of you who make it possible for us to do that kind of work. We really appreciate you being there and doing that so Bill and Bear could be together. Now, this year was a little different for us, like it was for you, I'm sure. So these numbers are sort of different than you've seen in previous years. Here in the shelter in Middletown, we took in just short of 1,500 animals, which is a pretty significant reduction from previous years. Because when the pandemic hit, when we had shut down in March, we stopped taking interstate transports of animals, which makes up just about half of the animals we take in. And the state asked us to restrict our intake to just those most severe needs. So we still took in strays and cruelty cases and animals that had nowhere else to go, but people who could hold on to their animals, we asked them to do that and supported them in other ways. We are the shelter for the 3 towns on Aquidneck Island. So some of those animals are strays and returned to their owners. About a third of them we spayed or neutered ourselves. But also a little over 100 of them needed other types of surgery so that they would be ready to be adopted. Over 200 of them had to be sent to foster homes before they were ready for adoption. Some of those went to foster homes in March when we weren't sure what the future was going to look like. And many of those foster homes adopted them, and just over 20 were transferred to other groups for adoption. So total adoptions this year, just over 1,200, again, a reduction compared to previous years because of that pause in services that we had to go through for several months, and still adoptions are much slower than normal. Everyone has to come to us with an appointment already made, schedule a time, and sort of all of our systems are really just slowed down a little bit to this day. Our spay and neuter clinic, which has now been with the Potter League for about 1.5 years, performed just short of 5,000 spay and neuter procedures for dogs and cats. About 40% of those are for other shelters or for trap, neuter, return groups working with community cats. That's a reduction of a couple thousand from previous years because that clinic was closed for about 10 weeks. And when we reopened, it was at a much smaller capacity than previous years. Most of those animals receive vaccinations, some of the microchips, and even though we have the lowest spay and neuter prices in the state, in addition to our regular low prices, we further subsidize some of those surgeries to the tune of almost $20,000 a year. So that's a total at those 2 facilities of animals who received some sort of care of over 8,000 animals this year. Again, a reduction compared to previous years, but important care for those animals who received it. Our behavior and training center, again, paused operations for quite a while. So the number of classes, number of animals we could help was reduced in person, but I'll talk a little later about the increase in need through our behavior helpline And our free adopter classes continued, and some of our advice went online and virtual as we continue to adjust. We brought those classes back, some of them virtually distanced, and some of our play groups with masks and separation. You'll see tape on the floor in our training center now to keep people apart. So we're continuing, but still, not at the capacity that we had in the past. We continue to help the community in a variety of ways. We continued this year to hold wellness clinics, mostly at public housing facilities throughout Aquidneck Island. We were only able to hold 8 of those wellness clinics this year because of having to stop due to COVID. Those community rooms that we worked in closed down. We held them at the Martin Luther King Center as well, and they had to close to people from the outside. So those clinics were more limited than in the past, but we are starting them back up again first here at the shelter in Middletown, and hopefully we'll be able to take them on the road again soon. We continue to subsidize veterinary care. That's our care fund. Subsidize veterinary care for people at private veterinary hospitals. So 161 pets were helped this year to the tune of $30,000, which is a record for us in terms of spending from that fund. We also housed 47 pets in our Pet Safe program. Those are pets who needed temporary housing because of things like their families being homeless or being in the domestic violence shelter, house fire, hospitalization. We had a couple of animals that had to be housed due to their family having COVID, and that totaled over 1,000 housing days. Again, that's a number that increased. I'm going to talk about that change in just a minute. Now, some of the services that we thought as sort of something that was secondary to our operations really became our focus. For several years, we've been supplying pet food to the Martin Luther King Center's food pantry, their physical food pantry in downtown Newport, which has been an essential program to get food to folks. But when the Martin Luther King Center took their food pantry on the road during the pandemic, we joined them. And wherever their mobile food pantry went, our pet food pantry would pull up alongside and provide pet food to people who needed it. Our volunteers started delivering pet food to people's homes. Some of the Meals on Wheels clients who can't get out of their house on their own and needed that food delivered or had other transportation limitations. So our food pantry this year provided over 8,000 pounds of pet food to people primarily on Aquidneck Island. Again, one of those services that saw a pretty significant increase. Now, our Humane Education program, obviously one that stopped very suddenly in March when schools shut down. We still managed to provide over 600 lessons to almost 6,000 students. Again, went virtual a little bit, and we are getting ready for some more virtual classes, and we may become a location where pods of students are going to be able to come. So although we had to close down, we were still able to reach quite a few students. And this summer, we're able to hold our summer camp. We had about half as many campers as we normally do, and fewer sessions than normal, but we just felt like it was really important for the kids during this really difficult time to be able to connect with animals. Such a popular program and such a wonderful way for kids to be able to interact with the animals here at the Potter League. Our volunteers kept volunteering. We did stop the volunteer program for a while, and still it is limited, but our volunteers still gave an incredible 20,000 hours. 659 volunteers were active in the past year, and there's really nothing that we could do without them. And when we had to stop the program, you can see what they did. They just stood in the parking lot waiting to get back in. They refused to stay away, but they were actually, this is some volunteers who came out to support the staff at a time when, early on, nobody really knew what was happening. And we just appreciated their support. They came out to cheer us on and be supportive of the staff who were in the shelter by themselves and didn't have the support that the volunteers normally provide to help with animal care. And now everybody you see there is back in and helping out, again, on a more restricted schedule, but we appreciate their support both through work and through this, this moral support they provided for the staff throughout. And that cat head is not photoshopped in, that's actually, that cat head is on her. So thanks for our volunteers. You keep us lively and encouraging us to keep doing our work. Now, this might not seem like an important metric during most years, but our reach over social media, over the internet has been essential for communicating with our community, talking about what we do, reaching people in need. You know, we think of this as marketing, but when we need to reach people who need food, need vaccines, need veterinary care right now when we can't get to them in other ways, this proved to be really essential for us to have this kind of reach and be able to get out into the community to get the word out that we were here for them when times were tough. I'll talk a little bit about this, you know, how things really changed. And you'll see these are changes from last year to this year. So the lighter color was the previous year, 2019. The darker color is 2020. So pet safe housing, you'll see last year we have 140 pets, which is a lot more than this year, 47. So over 100 of those pets from last year were due to the gas outage in the middle of winter last year, during the coldest part of the winter when people couldn't be in their homes because they didn't have gas for heat, and we housed over 100 pets during that time. But that event lasted about 10 days, and we housed pets for up to a couple weeks, some of them a little bit longer depending on whether their heat got turned on successfully right away. But what you'll see in that first column is the number of days of housing that we provided. So this, I believe, is the first year we've ever provided over 1,000 days of housing through the Pet Safe program. So that's the number of days an animals were in kennels here. And part of the issue that we're starting to see now is there's a real housing crisis in Rhode Island, and animals are going to be one of the factors that exacerbate this problem. So when we get pets into the Potter League right now because someone is homeless, someone's had to leave their home because of domestic violence or other sorts of situations, it is taking longer than ever for them to find new homes. So we're having to keep them in this program longer than ever, and we expect that trend to continue. So while the number of animals may go down, although we expect it to go up, the number of days that those animals are here is steadily increasing. And we see this as a potential ongoing problem because of an overall housing availability crisis, really, especially for people in the most need throughout our state. On the third column, you'll see our calls to the behavior helpline. Again, about 300 a year is normal. This year, over 550 calls to that line. Lots of reasons for that. One, of course, there's no dog training available. Everybody shut down their in-person dog training programs. People were acquiring new pets at a fairly high rate. And then, you know, animals are creatures of habit. They love routine, and everybody's routine changed. And people had difficulty handling it. And our behavior staff really got overwhelmed with this almost doubling in the number of calls that we received this year to our behavior line. And being able to provide in-person classes again is a huge help. And but these calls continue as training in person is still limited. And I will say that these programs are all free to everyone who needs them, Pet Safe and the helpline. As I said, our food pantry, again, saw a huge increase in demand. Last year, about 6,700 pounds. So this year, about 8,300 pounds of food. This is the first year that we have ever purchased food to meet the demand of the food pantry. It has always been a donation-based system. So people bring us food, we distribute it. But this is the first time we've actually purchased food because the demand was so high that donations alone could not meet that demand. And most of those purchases were met with a grant, partially from the Humane Society of the United States. And as I mentioned, our care funds saw an increase, so that 2,300 number is a pretty average year, or sometimes less than that. This time grew to 30,000, and we do receive some grant funds for that, but those grant funds are typically around $20,000 a year. So the rest that is filled in with general donations from folks like you who are watching, who help out. And again, the care fund provides subsidies for veterinary care for people, for owned animals in the community who are going to private veterinarians. So typical ways that people access those funds is they might be attending one of our wellness clinics. We find something that needs to be addressed and we'll refer them to a private veterinarian for care and subsidize those visits. Or a veterinarian calls us and says they have someone who needs help paying their bill, and we will help subsidize those bills. But this is a demand that we think is going to continue to grow. So that leads me well into our total services provided to animals in the community, over 22,000. So that includes everything I just talked about, put together. Those are the animals we impact in our community through this whole variety of programs. Now, as David mentioned earlier, one of the most exciting things that we have happening here at the Potter League is our recent acquisition of the Pets in Need Veterinary Clinic. The PIN clinic is in Riverside, East Providence. They are the only full-service nonprofit veterinary practice in the state of Rhode Island. They saw about 3,500 animals last year, well on track to see probably close to that. Again, like us, they had to close down for about 8 weeks because of COVID. They can't quite see as many clients as they normally do because all their check-in is curbside. So their staff has to go in and out to people's cars to get their animals and call them when they have a diagnosis. But we're so excited about this new opportunity for us to help people and animals. So the only people who go to the Pets in Need clinic are people receiving some sort of public assistance. So that might be SSI or disabled veterans or people with housing assistance. Pretty much any state or federal assistance that you might receive will qualify you to receive care at this clinic. And these are folks who have probably never been to a veterinary practice before. When our doctors see them for the first time, they often have a host of problems that need to be treated that the owners and families weren't aware needed to be treated. The staff at this practice are really just outstanding. I've gotten to spend a lot of time with them lately. And the work that they're doing is so very important and was just absent from our state just 4 years ago when they opened. And it's essential for just keeping families together and central to the Potter League's belief that no matter where an animal is, whether they're in the shelter or in a home, they deserve care and they deserve to be treated well. They deserve to get their needs met. And this is going to bring us a long way to meeting that need. And we hope to have the capabilities of this clinic continue to grow. For us, this is only the beginning of a continuing effort to keep families together. So that's what's happening at the Potter League right now. And I think I'm right on time. I just don't know how that. So I am very excited now for this part of our evening because I get to introduce a gentleman who I've gotten to hear speak several times. I always enjoy it. I always learn something new, and I hope you all get as much out of his talk as I always do. So our speaker this evening is Dr. Michael Blackwell. Dr. Blackwell currently serves as the director of the program for pet health equity at the University of Tennessee. His mission is to improve access to veterinary care, especially for families with limited means. Before he was with the University of Tennessee, Dr. Blackwell was the Dean of the College of Veterinary Medicine at the University of Tennessee. He was the Chief of Staff for the Office of the Surgeon General of the United States. He was the Deputy Director for the Center for Veterinary Medicine at the Food and Drug Administration and Chief Veterinary Officer for the U.S. Public Health Service. During 23 years on active duty with the U.S. Public Health Service, he achieved the rank of Assistant Surgeon General and Rear Admiral. Dr. Blackwell has received numerous awards and recognition, including the Distinguished Service Medal, Meritorious Service Medal, 2 Surgeon Generals Exemplary Service Medals, and this is exciting, this is new news, he is the 2020 recipient of the Avanzino Leadership Award, which is an award provided by Maddie's fund, only one person a year. I think he might only be the 3rd to receive that honor. So without further ado, I will introduce Dr. Blackwell. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Brad. Excuse me. It's so wonderful to be here to attend your meeting. And, you know, when I think about our country, and we've got a lot of issues going on, but when I want to think about what's good in America, I regularly think of folks like Brad and his team and others who show up each day to work on behalf of their communities, attending to animal welfare. I think of the citizens in communities across the country that dedicate their dollars, their time, other resources to assist their community in that way. And so thank you all for all that you do every day. You do represent what is good about our country. I'd like to share just a few PowerPoint slides here with you, and if there are any questions, certainly feel free to ask them. I want to talk about access to veterinary care and the need for us to continue to organize our efforts to improve our communities. But let's first talk about Bill and Bear. Bill and Bear represent what we call a bonded family. And it turns out that America is made up mostly of bonded families. 2/3 of our households have pets. Now that's more than twice the households with children in America. Our national study found that 88% of these households considered their pet a family member. And so we refer to them as bonded families. Brad referred to Bill and Bear and as a bonded unit. And we encourage you to start referring to your families as bonded families when they are made up of these social units. It's in recognition of the human-animal bond. That's what America looks like today. And oh, by the way, these social units come in all kinds of packages, from what you might call a typical middle-class white family in America to unsheltered individuals, to our elders, our seniors, and all across the board. But we have a real crisis, folks, and I'm sure you are already aware of this, but millions of families do struggle to access veterinary care. Before COVID-19, our national study found that more than 1 out of 4 reported a barrier to veterinary care, primarily, overwhelmingly, as you can see here, because they could not afford the care. At that time, we also estimated in the country at least 29 million dogs and cats lived in households that participate in the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program or food stamp program. We use that measure because if you qualify for food stamps, you probably are going to struggle to pay for veterinary care if it's needed. but it gave us a sense of the size of the problem. Now, in addition to these households with dogs and cats, there are sometimes other pets that were not counted here. And of course, many middle-class families can struggle from time to time to pay for care. The primary barrier being financial, of course, is affecting younger pet owners more than older pet owners. And here, get this, guys, 2/3 of pets are with 2 generations. The millennials, which is the largest pet owning generation, and the baby boomers. Now, the millennials are projected to not make the income of their parents' generation, which tells us that the service delivery models built in the private sector are probably not going to serve this sector of Americans well. And of course, us baby boomers are daily retiring onto limited incomes. So this represents the true significance of the crisis that we see right now, that it's big and it's going to be long lasting. And of course, the cost of delivering services continue to outpace the ability of many families to pay for the care. And then comes COVID-19. And of course, those stats that I've just shared are just blown out of the water because of the significant increase in unemployment, the projections that many businesses will not return after the pandemic is over, and therefore the unemployment rate is likely to remain high. With respect to Rhode Island, you're a small state, but you probably look like many other states when we start to drill down and look at your veterans population and those in poverty and so forth. Thankfully, we have pets in need in Rhode Island, because organizations like that practice they were already needed, and they will continue to be needed in major ways. If we look at Central Falls, that's where I understand the problem of access to veterinary care may be most severe in your state. And as you can see, these percentages go up as far as the number of citizens that need help. Brad, let me just say congratulations on the decision made to acquire Pets in Need, to keep that operation going, because if it were ever needed, now is the time it's needed. Let's drill down, though, a little bit further about the families needing help. And this list comes from the national perspective, but I'm sure it fits Rhode Island. The largest category of pet owners, bonded families that are struggling, are actually working people. They're the working poor. Their wages are such that they need assistance, but they are contributing, ironically, most often working in service industries, working in service to us. Our seniors, these folks have contributed their entire lives. Now they are on limited income and deserve the companionship with non-human family members. We think in terms of those who are temporarily unemployed. If we just look at that food stamp program again, 75% of the households that qualify actually have at least one person working. And then, of course, 1/3 of them have 2 or more workers in the family. Then there are those who are unable to work due to a disability. What is it about this group of Americans, or Rhode Islanders? They are not slackers. They're not people who are sitting around asking for a handout, but their reality is they can use the help. Now, we can always say, well, you know, you're just out of luck and you're on your own and that's it. But let's just think about what are the impacts of not having veterinary care. Of course, for the pet that needs the care, it may mean a prolonged recovery from an illness or injury, if they're fortunate, because too often they die prematurely. Sometimes that death is brought about by euthanasia, a mercy killing, if you would. And then, of course, some are relinquished to facilities like Brad's with the hopes that they'll get the help they need and, of course, a new family. The point is it breaks up the family when that happens. Nobody is winning really in that situation. So for the family, these situations create stress, distress, emotionally and physically. And then for the veterinary care team, for practices, for veterinarians that want to help, but they can't give away the shop, they can't give away everything. It pains us when we have to turn people away or perform those euthanasias. But folks, I want you to also think about the community at large, because the community loses in this situation as well. And we can just point to zoonotic disease threats. Now, what's a zoonotic disease? These are diseases that an animal may have that can be passed on to a human. They're not all as dramatic as rabies, or they're not as dramatic as COVID-19, which is a zoonotic disease. But there are other diseases, from parasites to diseases like leptospirosis and fungal diseases like ringworm. To the extent that we don't provide care to the bonded families that are struggling, the community is at risk. And if climate change is real, which I do believe it is, that 1 or 2 degree increase in temperature, average temperatures, mean that Rhode Island will start to see diseases you've not seen before. And so communities really need to appreciate, in my opinion, the threats that you face when your families, too many of your families are not able to access health care. Now, we're doing something about it. I'm not going to talk a lot about our program, except to say the solutions to these challenges are actually our communities. Now, what our program is doing that's unique is it's actually built to focus on the human members of the family, because when someone can't pay for medical care, there are usually some other challenges that that family may face. Brad mentioned a moment ago housing insecurity. And I agree, Brad. I think we can anticipate more families that will be struggling with housing. And because they're bonded families, then the non-human family members are going to be at risk as well. The thing I want to dwell on here is the way forward is not our government, it's our communities. And so community-based initiatives that, by the way, work because of this one simple fact. Animal welfare in America has advanced because of our communities, our private sectors, not our government programs. The government has a public safety responsibility, as we know. So we need shelters. We need to have a place for strays to go, or when people can't keep their pets. But that's kind of the end of the government's responsibility. It's our communities that said, no, we're not going to just euthanize these precious souls. We're going to shelter them. We're going to get them in better medical condition and better health. We're going to spay and neuter them, and we're going to adopt them out. We're going to foster care them. In other words, it's our communities that we look to. So I appreciate all that you guys are doing in Rhode Island. I appreciate the support that Brad and his organization is receiving. And I just want you to know that please don't stop, because unfortunately we're going to be challenged here over the next few months and years as a result of where the country is right now. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is this. The veterinary medicine industry is built on equality. We, no matter who walks through our front door, our practices, we tend to present the same fee schedule. And yes, veterinarians will try to make adjustments as they can, but by and large, that system built on equality does not factor in the different realities that families are living with. And so equity, which is our goal, is that you adjust within your community programs and activities in order to reach those who are currently not being served. And of course, through time, as communities get better and better at that, we reach this liberation level where we've literally just removed the barrier altogether, and everybody is able to enjoy access to healthcare in this case, in a way that we have healthy families and healthy communities. That is my last slide. And Brad, I left a little time, hopefully enough time for any questions or comments. We certainly welcome those.
I have one to start. You are a veterinarian, a very accomplished one, who is working within a school of social work.
Yes.
Which is, to my knowledge, is not common. I will tell you that at least a couple of the people watching are executives at a local university with a school of social work.
Okay.
So can you talk to us about veterinary social work, what that means, why it's important, how that's different than typical social work, and
Yes.
why the school is doing that?
So let's start with the framing. The framing is 2/3 of our households have pets, more than twice the number with children. Therefore, when you're in the business of supporting families, whether it's through social work, social service, public health, more often than not, there is a pet in the picture somewhere. And what we do know is that pets influence the well-being of families, positively and negatively. I think another way to put this, we can improve our effectiveness as we view the family holistically and understand there are non-human members generally involved. So veterinary social work grew out of that reality, and that veterinarians were increasingly being faced with, still are, challenges that were human factors. You can say, well, they can't pay their bill. That's not the dog's fault. That's the reality of the family. But then when you factor in the emotional bond that exists, what we are seeing across our examination table is depression and anxiety because of what's going on with the non-human member. Or if they're struggling to pay for the care and there's a financial impact, that's going to ripple through the family. So being that we're not trained to really address human mental emotional health, it was important to partner with an allied profession, and that's social work. So a veterinary social worker is a social worker who is certified in the human-animal bond. So they learn how to address the human challenges or needs that arise around animals, including livestock, by the way. But that's why we came to be. And so we're positioned in social work, in the College of Social Work, because I can tell you veterinarians know how to treat. We know how to cut our treatment plans down to reach the patient. It's the humans that are the challenging factor here. And so we're positioned alongside those who are trained to address the human factor and assist us in what we're trying to do.
Thank you. Thank you. And you spent much of your career as a public health veterinarian. And of course, we're still in the midst of a public health crisis. And you touched on the importance of veterinary medicine in public health. Can you, from your perspective, what do we need to do to better prepare for this sort of crisis? Thankfully, COVID is not terrible. It seems like it possibly can pass to cats, but not a major source of infection. But if it had, what do we need to do as part of the system of veterinary care and public health to better prepare for a crisis like this that might include a disease that could pass between people and animals more easily?
Thank you for the question. And to be transparent and respectful of you guys, I need to be very clear about one thing. The country has not performed as well as it's capable of on this issue, and I won't go any further than that, except to say when we don't pay attention to public health, when we don't invest in prevention and control of diseases, then we suffer greatly on the other end. And it's not just financially, it's the loss of lives. So veterinary medicine exists to safeguard human health. That's a secret you guys didn't know about. You know, it's because of what I was saying a moment ago. It's the zoonotic diseases. And it's not just the pets. The biggest reason is because of foodborne illnesses. So we consume animal protein in our country. And when we just look out in our environment, there are way more animals than there are humans. So the connection with the animal world, of course, we're one of the animals, but the connection that humans have with the rest of the animal world is intimate. And therefore, we need to pay attention to the dynamics that go on there with respect to microbes moving about. I think that we're learning a lot as a result of this COVID-19 experience. And my optimism is that the country will emerge from through this, as we've done through many other challenges as a nation, and we will improve ourselves in the ways that we have to do better going forward. I don't even know if I answered your question, Brad.
Well, I think you did. I think that it seems to me that we in animal welfare often think of our state veterinarians as regulators and not as partners in public health, which is really their primary mission. And that those of us who work more on the state level than national need to think about how to interact with our state veterinarians.
Well, let's just remember the core mission of public health is to prevent and control disease. And disease is not just infectious diseases. Disease can be social, behavioral kinds of problems within a community. And let's just call it crime or drug abuse or domestic violence. So public health is a big phrase, but it's about preventing or mitigating problems. And yes, we as veterinarians, and of course the state's public health veterinarian or state veterinarian has that as a mission. Those regulations that some people get upset about are actually intended to impose those safeguards that we need to stay healthy, stay safe.
And I think one of the vice president of our board was raising her hand, has a question. Elena.
Michael, I can't thank you enough for your amazing presentation.
Thank you.
It's so heartening to get this positive message. And I agree that going forward, humans and people are going to need a lot of support. And I'm happy to be able to help provide that service. I've been working a little with the diversity, equity, and inclusion at the Potter League. And we are reaching out to a broader community now. And given your background and expertise, I was just hoping you could give us a few pearls of wisdom to take with us as we, really embark upon serving a broader community.
Well, Elena, thank you so much for that. That is really heartening to hear. But I'm being frank with everybody again. I got a good answer for you, I hope. But listen, the veterinary profession is 85% white. There's like less than 3% Black veterinarians. The animal welfare industry is largely white. Thank God we got all these white people who want to help animals, so I'm not complaining. However, the country is changing. It's shifting demographically. And I'm really encouraged when I hear that an organization like you all are paying attention to this and trying to find a way forward. I will just simply say this. It starts with what you just said, that you have a desire to reach underserved communities of color, and hopefully incorporate more people of color in your operations. But it's important to suspend with judgment, because the communities of color don't necessarily interact with animals the way white people might. You know, I often say there's this Eurocentric perspective that operates in animal welfare. And I'll use as an example, there are families that I've met along the way, Black families and sometimes Latinx, and they just don't believe you let dogs sleep in the bed with you. That's just not, you just don't do that. Yet the love expressed toward those family members is exactly what you would want to see. Heck, I'm from Oklahoma. There are families, I'm probably still in Rhode Island, families that don't believe that the dog should even be inside, yet they love those individuals. And so I think in going into communities and reaching out, one should suspend with judgment and try to appreciate the cultural differences and understand that those animals are definitely better off with their people than if you pass rules or decide that they're not taking care of them in the right way, in the way that we would take care of them. I don't know if that helps, Elaine. It's a big question, but thank you for asking.
Absolutely does. And I agree with you. My dog's personally like taken more liberties. He started at the bottom of the bed and now his head's on the pillow. So I totally understand what you're talking about. Like, you know, they move right in. But thank you for that. I appreciate it.
I think maybe we have time for one last question. We have one posted in the chat from another board member who says, clearly there's a need for access to veterinary care. What innovative models have you seen or had experience with other than just low cost clinics like Pets in Need, and how can our organization supplement the Pets in Need clinic?
Thank you, Michael, for the question. And due to our time, I can't give as detailed of an answer as I'd like to. But our thinking is this. We, first of all, Aligned Care, and I'm not being selfish here, Aligned Care is the only model that is currently presented to the nation as a way to better organize how we go about doing things. And maybe you all will invite me back to talk to you about why you want to implement Aligned Care in Rhode Island. The Canadians, by the way, are doing it now. So we need more US states to step up. The bottom line is this. We need a safety net program that in some ways mirror the safety net programs in human healthcare. But I'm not talking about a new government program. I'm still talking about community-based initiatives, but a level of organization and structure so that we more efficiently, effectively utilize our precious resources. In the case of veterinarians, that big resource called private veterinary practices is sitting there untapped, can be tapped to the extent that we incentivize them to help. And that means being sensitive to their bottom line as a small business. Just so you'll invite me back, I will tell you my long-term plan is that both corporate America and government will have a role in the future because of the work that we're doing to build that structured healthcare system. And I will say the reason why government and corporate, because the two biggest funders of human healthcare are the human health insurance industry, private businesses, and our government. And yet we are, through our studies, and some prior studies have been done and others will happen, we are able to show that bonded families are healthier. They're happier by measures. They are physically more active, and on and on and on. And so the cost of insuring a bonded family, or the cost of taking care of the healthcare needs through a government program of a bonded family, those costs are lower than if it's a non-bonded family. We think that some of those dollars that's paying for illness can be redirected toward keeping those non-human family members healthy and in those families, because in the balance, it's going to lower your overall costs with the humans.
Great. Well, I posted a link to you to the Align Care site on the University
Thank you.
website for those who are interested in learning more. But it sounds like you're going to be talking to us again. Hopefully next time you'll come up in person. My understanding is that you enjoy the beach, so this is a good place for that. And we'll have to get you up to Rhode Island.
Well, just one thing now, Brad, I have to be transparent again. You guys are in Rhode Island, so as long as it's not in the winter, you know, I'm a brother, so I'm not built for cold climates.
Well, this is the
Is
place.
that right, Elena?
Place to be in the summer. We'll get you up in the
We'll
summertime.
get you done in the summer.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Blackwell, our sincere thanks for spending some time with us tonight. Really appreciate your time and appreciate all the work you have done in this area and opened a lot of eyes, and I think are making a lot of progress all over the country to bring this important issue to light. And I just see more and more people who do what I do focusing on this, and it's great to use the tools that you provide to help talk to people about it. So thank you very much. Thank you for everybody who is on here on Zoom and on Facebook, to all our board members and supporters for supporting the Potter League for another year, and we've got another great year ahead of us.
Thank you guys for allowing me to visit with you, and please keep up the good work. Your families need you, and you are what's good about this country, just to be clear.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Night. Bye-bye.